thing we've all been waiting for, the opening of our borders. There will be strict rules in place when our borders open to travellers from tomorrow. This follows the easing of lockdown regulations for level 1. Visitors from African countries will be allowed in and out of our country, but leisure travellers, and I say leisure travellers from COVID-19 high-risk countries, will not be allowed in. eNCA reporters Khayelihle, Khumalo and Siphamandla Goge are following this story from very different angles. Khayelihle is in Musina on the border between South Africa and Zimbabwe, and Siphamandla, of course, in our newsroom. Good evening to you first, Sipha. Some important details from government about the new regulations. The borders are opening, but travellers from COVID-19 high-risk countries, if they're coming here for leisure, will not be allowed to come in. Tell us more.
Only those people who are regarded as diplomats, business people, investors will be allowed to come into South Africa. But if you are just coming to visit, unfortunately, you will not be allowed if you are coming from what has been described as the high-risk countries. Now, there is a whole lot of those countries. There is a list that has been announced today. We will get into it later on, but only those who are coming here to do serious stuff will be allowed to come into South Africa. The Minister of International Relations, Dr. Naledi Pandor, explains that they are following the World Health Organization's guidelines in terms of describing and defining those countries. Let's listen to her explaining.
We have determined, using the WHO criteria, what our average level is. And we've then agreed that countries that significantly are above the level of South Africa's infection and death rates, those countries will remain determined by us as high-risk countries. Those that fall within the South African or below the South African domain would be medium, and then far below is low risk.
And it's quite an extensive list of countries on our banned leisure travel list. I'm not going to read them all because it's 57 countries long. But let's focus now on what's going to happen in the rest of Africa. Khayelihle, to you in Musina. Now, we know that travel within Africa is allowed. You're on the border between South Africa and Zimbabwe, or close to it. What is happening there in preparation? Are people crossing over the border, the land border? Do they have to have a recent COVID-19 PCR test in their hands?
Well, there's a great deal of joy here between South Africa and Zimbabwe. We've interacted with the businesses, specifically around in the town of Musina. You know that when you look at its economy, it heavily relies on the cross-border trade between the two nations. So far what you do understand is that all those who are traveling will have to comply with all the regulations with less than 72 hours of certificates with the negative results for COVID-19. But also, most importantly, we do understand that if you don't have, of course, none of that, you'll be subjected to a mandatory quarantine site. And we know previously the South African government would pay for you, but now that has changed significantly. Now you'll have to pay from your very own pockets. But also, we got an opportunity to speak to Musina municipality. From their side, they're saying really they are upbeat about the prospects come tomorrow. And this is what the spokesperson had to say.
Last week there was a visit here by people from the provincial government just to ensure that everything is ready here. We have a tour and we were satisfied that everything was in order. But I'm very sure that as of tomorrow, everything will be in good order. But we'll also make sure, as a municipality, to work with all the relevant stakeholders to make sure that all the COVID-19 regulations are being adhered to when people come to Musina from the other side of the border.
So, Khaya, let's say I want to go to Zimbabwe tomorrow, coming from South Africa. Business or leisure, I can go. What do I need to have to cross over? Is it simply my passport, or do I need to prove that I'm COVID negative?
Well, by all accounts, you have to prove that you are COVID negative, but also there has been an assurance from officials that they'll be working around the clock to make sure that they do ensure that there is compliance with regards to all the protocols. But we know when you look at this particular area, there is a phenomenon of the border jumpers that from time to time will use the illicit means to gain entry. So that remains a challenge for the officials because to some extent they also don't know the actual number of the people who are jumping the border, but also, you know, they always choose to look at the very positive aspects of migration, of saying that, you know, there's always an economic spin-off. But as time goes on, it's really going to be a massive challenge for them as a way of trying to spread COVID-19. And just to give you a sense, Sally, the town of Musina, you know, it's usually very quiet, but today, you know, we're just here on the main route, you know, it's really a buzz there. There are trucks, the taxis are moving around. I can really see that there's quite a lot of anticipation for tomorrow.
Absolutely. Well, it's going to be a very busy day there, I'm sure. Now, Siphamandla, let's just get back to the list. I want to speak to you about visas in a moment, but I'm just trying to go through the countries on South Africa's banned leisure travel list. France, Greece, India, Iran, Iraq, Ireland, Israel, Russia, United Kingdom, USA among them. But Brazil and China, it seems, are not on the no leisure travel list. Brazil's had pretty high infection rates, though.
Indeed, there was a question during the press briefing, and well, there was an explanation that was given. But it's very interesting that China and Brazil are not part of that list. But obviously, the ministers did explain that that list will be reviewed after 2 weeks, if I'm not mistaken. It will all depend on the data that will be available from all the countries, because they will be reviewing that list. It's possible that we will see some countries being added onto that list. We might also see some countries being downgraded to medium or to low risk level. Let's listen to the Minister of Home Affairs explaining about that list.
It's the Dominican Republic, Ecuador, Faroe Islands, France, French Polynesia, Georgia, Gibraltar, Greece, Guam, Guatemala, Guyana, and the Honduras, Hungary, Iceland, India, Iran, Iraq, Ireland, Israel, Jamaica, Jordan, Kosovo, Kuwait, Lebanon, Luxembourg, Maldives, Malta, Mexico, Moldova, Monaco, Montenegro, Netherlands, Nepal, North Macedonia, Oman, Palestine, Panama, Paraguay, Peru, and Portugal.
Did you get all that, Sipa? There'll be a test later. That's a very long list, and it wasn't ending there. Talk to us quickly about visas, particularly people who had visas that expired during lockdown. What's the situation for them?
Well, they will up until the 31st of January, because their visas might have expired when the lockdown was introduced. So the Minister of Home Affairs said they will not have any problem. If they want to leave, they will be allowed to leave. Their passports will not be stamped undesirable, which is a common practice if your visa has expired and you are within the country's borders. So he said they still have time up until the 31st of January, so they can relax for now.
Oh, that's good to hear. Thank you very much. eNCA reporter Siphamandla Goge at our newsroom, and Khayelihle Khumalo in Musina. Thanks so much for that update. Still